Hello. We'll start with a little game. Can I have the house lights up a little bit, please? With a real 200 Rand note here. We can have a little auction. Two rules. Highest bidder wins the 200 Rand. Second highest has to pay for it. That's it. Okay, do I have any takers for 200 bucks? 10 bucks. Anybody for 10 bucks? One back, 10 bucks there. Anybody higher than 10 bucks? 20 bucks. 20 bucks, but 20 bucks from the front here. 50. 199 bucks. Anybody more for 199 bucks? 199.50. 199.99. Anybody higher than that? 210. 210. I've got 210. Anybody else? The back, 250. 250. 210. For 200 Rand, no, 250 bucks. I'll come back to that because we do end up paying $1 million. We do end up paying a lot more for what things are really worth. Rob asked me to talk about my cock-ups in my life. And he only gave me 30 minutes. So I've been in businesses for 33 years. So here I was this 20-year-old. I had a little export business selling stuff to the States after I worked there for a year, and I thought, I'm seriously smart. Young family, going out, and now I'm clapping it. Then something happened. A shipment that I had to send out to the States was completely wrong, and I saw my cash flow going down. So I phoned my insurance broker and said, hey, but there's a problem coming. So I've got to stop all these policies that I have. Why? He said, I'm going to have no money. He says, what happened? I tell him the story. He says, listen, why don't you sell insurance for a bit? Just to tide you over. I said, no, man, I'm a businessman. I'm not an insurance salesman. And the worst thing, let me tell you, if you haven't had an experience with an insurance salesman, it's a hard job. And I did that. So for 25 years, after falling into selling insurance because I had to feed a young family, I didn't do so badly in that. But I have to tell you, we're sitting in Old Mutual, and for those of you that haven't made friends with insurance salesmen, you have to put your ego away. There's an old story that you've got to put your foot in the door. In insurance, you don't have to put your foot in your door. You've got to put your head in the door because you can keep on talking when they close the door. But it's the biggest leveler on the planet. So you have to do something like that. It wasn't so good with that one-on-one cold calling stuff. So I thought, well, I'll get smart. I learned a lot about it. And I built quite a decent brokerage with a couple of big funds that I look after, employee benefit funds. And I sold it. So I thought, okay, now I'm time for something bigger. And I came to the small company in Cape Town, who I've met in my insurance selling days, and I said, I've been exposed to some new technology. And I think we can revolutionize the way that we sell insurance. Because I've been exposed to companies selling insurance over the phone, short-term insurance in the UK. Well, that can work here. Real high-tech insurance selling. So I came down to Old Mutual, and they said, Christo, we've tried that before, but it does not work. People have to see you, you've got to be nice to them, schmooze them a bit. You cannot sell insurance over the phone. And up to that stage, I know there's some mutualites in this room, I think there's over 5,000 tied agents, as they call them, at Old Mutual had selling insurance. And they were selling on average 1.8 policies per week. So that's a benchmark I had. And they said, listen, it's not going to work. But I said, okay, I'll take the risk. I'll put up the infrastructure. We get the call center going. We wrote some software to make sure that before CRM and all that stuff was out, we're going to get people to understand what to say. And I got a team of people together, and they sold on average 15 policies per day. Yeah, that's how the Oaks laughed on the 5th floor here. Big smiles, right? So I thought, well, I've got this now. I've got it nailed. You know, it's like a multiple of what the guys were selling, completely underestimating the power of this sales force. If I take my shirt off, I'll show you what my back looks like. And people think it was because we were slick on the phone, the smart software we had. It was completely the quality of people I had that did this. Because subsequently, after I left, they tried for a bit, and without the right quality of people, without the right culture, it didn't work. So the theme throughout my life since has been that it's all about people. You have to have the right people. And then it's about culture. You have the right culture and people know what it's about, they can do what needs to be done. So Mutual bought this business and became Old Mutual Direct. And again, talking about a roller coaster, now you think you're quite big, you're part of this big organization. I've never worked for a boss. All of a sudden, I'm part of the executive team at Old Mutual, and we're going to go list in London. And in that, this is now in the mid-90s. And then this beautiful thing, the internet came out. And I was the first person responsible in Old Mutual for the internet. We had to get guys come in and say, what is this interweb thing? Explain it to us, but I thought, that's quite cool. And, but we were the hippies of the internet. I don't know if any of you remember the Clue Train Manifesto. If you don't, please go, it's freely available online. It's the idealist's view of what the internet should be. It's about people having a human voice, not companies talking down at consumers, but people talking to each other. And we thought this is it. This is the idealistic way of doing business, giving people a human voice, and we'll talk to each other. We'll be real, right? And I thought, well, look, I've got this nailed now. I've got from insurance selling to high-tech call center, maybe this internet thing can work, and it can really help people give decent service. So how doof can you be to decide, well, right at the burst of the first tech bubble in 2000, between that and 9/11, we decided to launch an internet-only bank. Only one person laughed. I tell you, it was like, we thought we were, no fear of failure, we're going. We're going to do this because we know it's all about getting the right people and getting the customer experience right. And I was amazed standing in the back when Rob asked who remembered 2020 to see the number of hands. And I'm still actually quite blown away by the positive residue left by what we did there. But I'll tell you a little bit about the story of 2020, because people keep on asking me, why do you do all this stuff, but people don't really know what happened with 2020. So, the title of my talk is about obsession, and I am admittedly a completely obsessive person about things that drive some of my colleagues in this room completely mad. But I've failed because of my obsession, and I've had some successes because of my obsession in life. And the singular obsession that I have is, how do you get your customers to react like this? How do you create an extraordinary customer experience? And when we started 2020, it wasn't about what's going to be the ratio of people coming in and how big is the market, how we're going to turn this thing into money. Of course, we had the discipline. But the actual mission statement of the business was completely about how do we create a custom experience like people has never, ever seen. We thought it was a good place to start in banking because in those days, banks weren't really your friends, right? So here's our mission statement. To deliver a level of customer experience that is so extraordinary, so unexpected, so exemplary, that enchants our customers for life. This is 11 years ago. Starting boldly going to a place, we were so naive, we didn't know the challenges we were setting ourselves up for. But the intent was completely to be extraordinary and give people experience like they've never seen. So how do you curate an experience like this? How do you get a girl to react like this? So this is how people received their card from 2020, 11 years ago. You talk about problems with courier companies, Sylvia. So now imagine a courier company, we couldn't handle the volume. Now the Oaks had all, because as you got your card, it was in a box like this. I said to my team, it has to feel like I'm opening a Tiffany box. And you had this thing that broke as I opened it. You had this translucent card. Here's one, Rob. And my team said, why do you want a translucent card? I said, because it looks awesome. I said, go and get us one. So they came back and said, went to all the manufacturers in South Africa and it doesn't work. This thing, there's lights shines through it, you put it in the ATM, it won't work. So, sorry, Christo. So, but I saw a picture of this. Go and find one. So, but we've looked everywhere. So, have you looked in the whole world? Okay, so they go off, and we found this in Chicago. And we landed this translucent card cheaper in South Africa than the manufacturers here could make a normal card for us. So that's how we got a custom. And the number of people that came back and said they signed up for 2020 because they saw their mate next door get this box, and they, what the hell is this? And you should have seen me try to convince Sambo that it was a good ROI to do a box like that. So why did people sign up? We were quite cheeky. As CEO of one of the blue banks, story goes, lands at what was then Jan Smuts, and he sees this Musa big billboard. Yeah, the Oak was pissed off. He phones the guy and says, who's this? But it got the people like you that put your hands up to come. And we even spoke to Oxford University Press.
Oxford University Press.
I'd speak to someone about a new word for the dictionary, please.
Hello, Dictionary Department.
Hi, I wonder if you could help me. I'd like to query whether it's possible to have a word deleted from the Oxford Dictionary.
Deleted from? No, we don't delete words from the complete Oxford English Dictionary.
Absolutely not.
No, it's a matter of historical record.
Okay, the thing is, I feel the word bank simply isn't relevant anymore. And I think we need a new, fresh, up-to-date word for that. And I think that should be 2020.
Well, we only put things in when we have quite a large body of evidence to show that they are in actual use.
Oh, well, everyone's using 2020, so that shouldn't be a problem. Thank you very much for your help, ma'am.
Right.
Okay.
Introducing 2020, the revolutionary new 21st century bank that's taking banking to a whole new level. www.2020.com. It's the new word for banking.
That was 11 years ago. Cool ad, eh? Made by King James. Don't know if Alistair's in the room, but they did some serious smart work for us then. And as Rob mentioned, we managed to attract 40,000 customers in only 6 months because 2020 was only alive for 6 months. That's one thing that I find most people don't know or don't remember. So in 6 months, and it's not making a dig at the banks because people love to put me up that I'm this, but the blue bank, the green bank, the red bank, and the turquoise bank all launched online options then. And we got more customers in 6 months than they collectively managed to get. And then people ask why. Is it because of this awesome ads and cheekiness? And it was fundamentally about the quality of people that worked in that place. The people who had accounts with 2020 who had a problem, it was before we did everything online, it was on the phone, and they spoke to a wide warrior. And they were empowered to do anything that was needed to keep a customer happy. Anything, without asking. There wasn't a rule book. It wasn't you needed to ask your supervisor. You were empowered to do whatever was required to keep a customer happy. So what happened then? Curatorship. So you're having lunch with your family and La Perla and the phone rings and it's from Sambo. It's got to close down, but why? Curatorship. I don't care which MBA you did, what business school you go to, there's no course that teaches you about curatorship. And what to do when your lights and water gets cut off and you're not allowed to speak to your customers. How do you find ways to now communicate and tell people that everything's okay? They've got money invested in this bank. What the curator didn't figure out is we had an online forum that was on a different server, and we didn't shut that down. And the customers started talking to each other and started supporting each other. And the most unbelievable loyalty was shown where customers rallied together and formed 3 different fan clubs to try to save the bank.
2020 customers are rallying around the online bank, hoping to rescue it from the uncertain fate of its parent, Sambo. They're even willing to deposit money into the virtual bank, despite big queues of Sambo customers trying to get their money out.
Now, with Sambo's future under threat, a group of dedicated 2020 users have come up with a plan to try and save the online banking division. And while most Sambo customers are trying to withdraw their money, some 2020 customers want to deposit theirs and even pay more for service fees.
And I just thought that was really strange that people would do all of that to help a bank, which just doesn't happen in South Africa. Banks are not our friends.
Yeah, things have changed a bit, right? Banks are far more concerned about customers, and I think you won't mind me using it in a public forum. But after the demise of 2020, Paul Harris, who was then still the CEO of F&B, and I had dinner, and they said, Christo, you forced us to worry about what our customers think about service. But what do you do? So, talk about a little bit of a crisis. How do you get people to feel comfortable that this place will survive and the money's okay? So I had my team together and said, I think we've got like 5 days, guys. If we don't have another bank to take over, this brand is stuffed. And I donned my insurance salesman hat and I went and I saw all the CEOs of all the South African banks in the first week. They were all very nice to me. Not one of them wanted to buy 2020. Why would they buy a competitor, right? Especially Oak that said banks aren't necessary. But there was an Oak, we finally sold 2020 Standard Chartered for $20 million. And not one customer lost 1 cent. But it was a horrific journey, and I thought, no, this is it. But I've had it with financial services. I'm going to do very little for a bit. And while I was doing very little, a lot of other things happened. There was this subprime run in the world, 2008. Something else went off, right? It's like Warren Buffett's view of derivatives. But in this 2008 time, I got a call whilst everybody was, the world is falling apart as far as consumers' financial services concerned. Everybody hated a bank. Nobody trusted financial service institutions. I got a call from a guy, also fired lately, Gidon Novick, who founded Kalula. Phoned and said, hey, but got this plan. We want to do a Kalula wealth thing. And nobody loves banks. Everybody is mistrusting. It's really the time now to do something. And nobody's taking the space that you did in 2020. I said, no, man. God, I'm not going to do that ever again. And he convinced me, he said, listen, just come and consult to us. We've got this deal with another big blue company, and we're going to start this Kalula wealth thing, and maybe you can we'll pay you some money. And I've never been a consultant paid money. That's an easy way to make money, I tell you. No staff, you just go and talk rubbish and those battalion. But I did some research, and I spoke to some of my old 2020 teammates. Let's go and see what's happening in the world, because that's like 9 years ago, 8 years ago, and the world has changed, the cloud, web. And went back to, and said, listen, Kalula, a cool name for cheap airline, but not like it for money. But there's some stuff happening out there. There's some really cool stuff happening that I'm going to carry on with, and I think there's a space to help people get aware of how they behave financially and basically rid people of this addiction to debt. And I remember them looking at me, huh? But we set off on the most unbelievable journey. And what I'm sharing with you guys tonight is things where I got my hands dirty, is my lessons. It's not read in the book, it's my lessons. And for those of you that want to be entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs or very successful entrepreneurs, by the way, that's one thing that I find. People talk about entrepreneurs, but they forget to add the successful entrepreneur bit. And successful entrepreneur to me is not about how much money you've actually made. Maybe how much fun you've had. So what is this thing about culture? I often get asked, how on earth do you manage to get this culture together where people are obsessed about delivering this service and they really believe in this vision? So I thought maybe I could just steal something from my internal stuff at 22/7. But how we think, how we work, and how we relate. And in the time of new stuff, I thought I'll use an old school guy. People talk about failure, and when I spoke to my team at the office last night, I said, I want to use an example of failure, because I think people don't celebrate failure enough, and people don't realize if you say you want to innovate, it means you have to fail. You can't, an experiment needs to fail. You can't just go and think it's going to work. So I want to share with the audience something about successful people that you don't know about the success, but you don't know about all the failures that they've gone through. And we thought about using, these guys now wanting to mine asteroids, and just what a cool idea that is. I don't know, you need big money to do that. Then I thought, no, being an old school guy, go back to what Thomas Edison did. None of you remember this guy. This dude had more than 2,000 international patents. We remember him because he invented the phonograph, he invented telephone, he invented the movie machine. And by the way, I mentioned in the break, he also invented the tattoo machine. But he's famous for me for the one quote about genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Must have heard that. And that probably sums up every entrepreneur's life. An idea is quite, especially today on the web, you can pick up smart ideas every hour. To execute that idea in a way that whoever your end user is are totally blown away by it. That's the hard bit. So it is about, internally we talk about risk and failure, and that you've got to embrace failure. And we hope that we have the courage as a team to fail. Another smart oak that I read about said the opposite of courage is not cowardice. The opposite of courage is compromise. So we would rather fail in pursuit of magnificence than succeed in pursuit of mediocrity. And only obsessed people do stuff like this. You have to be a bit mal. Because it's not lucky to fail. So we think, we're taught, because society doesn't reward you when you fail. Anyway, how we work, otherwise I'll get in. We do not take ourselves too seriously. We have an unbelievable amount of fun in what we do. And play is part of how we've developed 22/7. Because we learn out of play. I've been privileged to be exposed to some of the brightest people in our research. And we work with a company in New York called the Institute of Play. And the lady there who's in charge of it took a public school in New York and threw away the entire curriculum and replaced the curriculum with a new one based on the psychology of play. Because we learn so much more when we play. So play is not trying to be cool and having foosballs and things. Play is how you think, is where you start from, how you're willing to be a child again. I think that's part of the culture, that's part of what the culture, and how we relate to each other is also not in a very cool, hip way. We really, when I look at love, tenderness, and respect, it sounds like a song. But that is what we always try to have in the cultures that I'm involved in. Because when you respect each other, you can fail so much easier. You don't have that calm to go and admit when you tried something that didn't work. So today, we started a small little business called 22/7 with a bunch of unbelievably smart people. The support people don't call themselves white warriors this time, they call themselves Swens. I see one of the Swens are talking here later this afternoon. He couldn't say 7, so he said Swen, and that's where this is them.
It doesn't seem to matter who you are, how much money you earn. Very few of us ever say that we have enough money.
We do make mistakes with money, all of us, all the time.
We're not very disciplined.
We don't know what we're doing half the time.
Even people who have degrees in finance.
We lie to ourselves and we think we're amazing until we actually look at cold hard facts.
I generally spend all that I have without thinking about it. The rest of the month is a kind of eking out.
Nobody sticks to their budgets except for a very small group of pedantic human beings, and I'm yet to meet any of them.
It's not fun looking after your finances. That's why most people don't do it.
And it really felt like there was an opportunity to help people see it, actual ways that they're using their money in a sort of fun and engaging way.
One of the first things that 22/7 has to do is link your bank accounts to the service.
So that the service can pull your data on your behalf.
We can show you all of your money together in one place.
The service doesn't lie. It pulls all your information in there and it makes it obvious where you're spending your money.
I thought I was only spending sort of like 300 Rand a month on takeaways, and that was a lie.
One of the other things you see is a representation of your available balances, but the way we've separated that is to show it to you in a way that makes you very aware of where your money is and who it's coming from.
Because what banks like to do is tell you your available balance.
Your available balance isn't actually your money. Your available balance is money that you can borrow from them and pay back with interest.
We allow you to target a few categories of spending and try and get more money from those categories every month.
The ABM, which stands for a bit more,
helps you spend less than you spent the month before.
We've created these really interesting ways to see information.
There's no spreadsheets here.
It takes something that can be very serious and scary and teaches you in a fun way to be better.
You should really be allowed to experiment with kind of ways you can spend money to live a better life.
It's a really bad idea to not have money.
And what we hope 22/7 will enable people to do simply is more.
So we've been in beta for public beta for 3 months. We were testing for 7 months before that, and we're going out of beta this Thursday. So for those of you that haven't taken the leap, despite some of the blues, greens, and those banks' concerns, I invite you to go to 227.com. And I can tell you from my personal experiences, before a lot of the tech was built, when we had all the logic and spreadsheets, and we used a lot of behavioral psychology, that the way that we became aware of our money decisions was the biggest aha, that each one of us ended up with more money at the end of the month. Not because of eating cat food or not drinking coffee. When you start thinking differently about your money, and mostly when you become aware how absolutely doff you can be making money decisions, we think we can help people come out with more than they have at the moment. So that is my story. Lots of failures, a huge roller coaster, and I think we're onto something that has huge potential at the moment. And I hope that you got some value out of my obsessions about people, about culture, and you have to create an extraordinary customer experience. Thank you.